How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Bengals or Rams, the Super Bowl rematch from 2 years ago, and two teams that are in, well, completely different situations, if you will. The Rams came into the season kind of an under the radar team, if you will, because this team won Super Bowl 2 years ago. You had Stafford and the injuries last season, and it was an ugly season for the Los Angeles Rams. You come into this season, I think a lot of people lost track. They forgot that this is a really good LA Rams team. This is a team with a really good quarterback under the helm when he is healthy. Remember, he had the injury issues last season. When he's healthy, and they came into this season, they beat the brakes off of the Seattle Seahawks, a team that's supposed to be solid this season, a division rival. They give the San Francisco 49ers, a team that is a Super Bowl favorite, or a team that go to the Super Bowl, we should say, out of the NFC. And they give them everything they can handle in week 2. And hey, if it wasn't for the Williams drop pass that deflected, got intercepted, the Rams may have won that football game. It was a tie football game late in the third, driving down the field. He did that deflection pick that shouldn't happen. He should catch that football. Game changer. We could be talking about this LA Rams 2-0 right now after those two. Those would be some big wins. And it's a team that, you said, oh, Cooper Kupp goes down. Now what are we worried about? Oh, what we got to worry about is this newly formed dynamic duo of Atwell and Nakua out wide. Matthew Stafford is feeding these guys the rock. Cam Akers, we all know about the Cam Akers story, where he's been super inconsistent for the Rams. Ended the season strong last season, but it looks like the Rams are already saying, hey, we know what we got out of this guy. We've played this game before. Kyron Williams comes up, impresses, comes out the second game, impresses even more. It looks like a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield and run the football. He's going to be a scary threat for the Los Angeles Rams. And all of a sudden, this Los Angeles Rams team, you still got Aaron Donald and company on defense. This Los Angeles Rams team, you start to feel like, hey, this team could make some noise again this season. This team, there's no chance at all it's going to be an easy matchup for the Cincinnati Bengals. Then you have the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that 2 straight AFC Championship appearances, 1 Super Bowl appearance, a team that loves to start the season 0-2, and they do it once again this season. A team that loves it. There's a couple of things that become normal in Cincinnati. I think this is why you see less panic from the fans. They love to start 0-2, and Joe Burrow likes to be injured to start the season. It's just been a thing. Burrow, we don't know how bad that calf injury was week 1 and 2. It did seem like it was affecting him. He wasn't affecting him. He wasn't as mobile. He re-aggravated against the Baltimore Ravens. But this is a Bengals team. You worry about them when they start 0-2. You feel like this is almost that 0-2. They almost have to win this football game, because you start 0-3. You start 0-3, and you still got to play 49ers. You still have to play the division leaders of every division leader, we should say, of the AFC. You still got to play the Rams, Browns, and Steelers this season. Ravens, Browns, Steelers this season. Teams that they've historically struggled a bit with, especially the Ravens and Browns. And I think that's the thing you look at as Bengals fans. You look at the thing as the Bengals. The Ravens and Browns, Lamar Jackson now 7-1 against the Bengals. We know the history of the Browns. The Bengals beat them one time in Joe Burrow's career. These are two teams that the Bengals have historically struggled mightily with. The matchup has not been pretty. So that makes you wonder, when you enter week 3, how badly have the Bengals struggled? How much is it the Bengals just, and Zach Taylor being notorious for not being able to game plan to start the season, not having his team prepared to start the season? They start out the gate slow. We're not trying to take a shot at Coach Taylor. He's done some great things for this organization, but the facts are facts. Zach Taylor does not have his football team prepared to start the season. It has happened 2 straight years now, where it almost feels like a carbon copy for the Cincinnati Bengals. Week 1, ugly offensively. Week 2, ugly offensively. Start the first half. Second half, Taylor kind of says, all right, Joe, this is your offense now. Go ahead and run a little hurry up. We'll give you a little bit more control of the play calls. Burrow takes his team down the field, scores a touchdown. The second half, they're driving down the field a couple different times through the 1 interception, scoring points, putting points on the board. Again, much like last season against the Dallas Cowboys, it felt like, hey, 6 quarters into the season, that's what it about took for this Cincinnati Bengals offense to get warmed up, to get prepared. And now I feel like if Joe Burrow is healthy, and if Joe Burrow can at least move around a little bit on that calf in week 3, I'd about have to bet he's going to play. There's a lot of rumors about, let him sit and get healthy for a couple weeks or whatever. I don't think the Bengals can afford that. Quite frankly, you let Joe Burrow sit for 3 weeks, let's say, to get that calf of it. All right, odds are Bengals are going to go 0-3 in those games. They might win 1, but to start the season 1-4, 0-5, and then Joe Burrow be healthy, I don't know how much good that does on a team that would pretty much have to win out. They could afford to lose 1 game and not a doctor, but I would assume a calf injury, something isn't, it's not career affecting, career altering, something that's a long-term injury. I mean, if he can play through the pain, he can play through the pain. Let him heal up in the offseason, right? Nonetheless, right now though, the Bengals struggling. There's been a bright spot though. That bright spot being Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon's going to go up against an LA Rams defense that has actually given up some yards in the ground. 5.3 yards to Walker, 5.8 yards to Christian McCaffrey these first 2 weeks. So this is going to be an interesting situation for the Bengals. This is a Bengals football team that loves to pass the football. And obviously you want to do that when you have T. Higgins, you have Tyler Boyd, you have Jamar Chase, you have Joe Burrow as your quarterback. They love to throw the football. They're going to go up against a Rams team that has given up yards on the ground. They're going to go up against a Rams team that historically, early in the season, going against some good offensive lines, historically gets some pressure on the quarterback. So the Bengals, mind you, you might want to try to establish the run game against the Rams. Will the Cincinnati Bengals do that? Because that seems like the way they need to go. If I'm the Bengals, I'm looking at this game and saying, hey, we need to establish the run game, and we got to find a way to stretch the field. Joe Burrow's averaging 4.2 yards per throw this season. Is by far the lowest of his career. And it's got a lot to do with the fact that right now the Bengals offense has been kind of obvious. Last week, we heard a lot of talk about the Bengals offensive line play. It was okay, it was good. It was, well, how good was it? Because Joe Burrow didn't have time to sit back in that pocket. When I watched Lamar Jackson throw, when I watched Deshaun Watson throw, he dropped back and stood there all day. Wasn't even close to the time Joe Burrow had. So you tell me how good that offensive line's been. It looked like Jonah Williams got worked a couple times in that last drive late in the game. Again, typical Cincinnati Bengals start. It might be this week, it might be next week, but I think the offensive line does figure it out. They start to get it going. But right now, to say, hey, to say this offensive line would be top 10 in the league or anything close to that, it's not even close to accurate in my opinion. And if you give Joe Burrow time to throw the football, we might see him stretch that field, but I do think that's important. This is a Rams team that hasn't allowed those big plays so far through the air this season, but this is a Bengals team that thrives on that. This is a Bengals team that needs to get Jamar Chase more involved in this game. They need to force teams to respect it, because when you go against the Ravens and all they did all game, again, 5 yards per throw Burrow was getting over there. If all he's doing is throwing little dump offs or little check downs, it's easy for the team to keep him in front. It's easy for teams to defend it. You got to force them to stretch the field, and I think we need to see a combination of both. Again, it helps the run game too. If we can get that run game going, force some safeties come down a little bit, run a little play action. They got to establish that run game. They got to try to find a way to connect with a couple of these big plays, and I think they're going to have to find a way to put points on the board, because I think this is a matchup where this Bengals defense, it's a very good bend but don't break type of defense. We'll see how they do in that regard this game, but I do feel like it's a defense that's going to have a very hard time getting off the field against Matthew Stafford and the company, who seem to be clicking in a big way. And he just went up against the 49ers, best defense in the league, arguably. Best offensive line or defensive line in the league, arguably. And Stafford gets hit one time or gets sacked one time, moves that football up and down the field like it was easy for most of the game. I would expect him to do that once again this game. I would expect a high-scoring game between these two teams. I'm impressed, though, with the Rams. I really am. I mean, this is a team that Cooper Kupp goes down, and you say, oh, jeez. They brought in other second wide receiver twos across the league. They had OBJ, they had Allen. I was like, oh, they've tried this before, and it's really been the Cooper Kupp show. Now what? And you bring these two young guys in almost like they reloaded in a big way, and these two guys are going out there tearing teams apart right now. How will they continue to do it against the Bengals? We shall see. I think one of the biggest things for this Bengals defense, too, again, it kind of goes back to the run game. It almost feels, hey, this is what's important for the Bengals. This is what I need to see out of Zach Taylor, and I need him coach. I need to have him to coach, have one of the best coaching performances of his career. Because you really need to go into this game and say early, a couple drives in, and you say, hey, we got to try to establish this run game. We have got to find a way to get this defense off the field, because they've been getting dominant in time of possession. As much as we can look back and say, well, the Bengals defense has struggled here and here, they've been able to get pressure on the quarterback. But the problem is they've been going up against two run-heavy teams that love to obviously run the football, and they possess the football, and they've outpossessed the Bengals in a big way these first two games. That's going to wear and tear down any defense. So you need to see this team establish the run, try to get some longer drives, hold on to the football. But you get two drives into this football game, and the run game's going nowhere. Zach Taylor's got to say, hey, we can't wait till halftime to make adjustments. This is a game we have to win. We've got to try something different. If the run game ain't working, we got to try, whether it be a bubble screen and see if that gets something going, or whether it be just say, here you go, Joe. Make your play. Hurry up offense. Do what you got to do. Sling around that rock. we can't, the Bengals can't afford in this football game to get behind by 10, 14 points against a team like the Los Angeles Rams and their offense and say, all right, now let's adjust. And I think that's been one of the issues the Bengals have had this season. Last season, we've seen it in the past, especially early in the season, is waiting a little too long to make the adjustments. They make great adjustments. And I think that's why we've seen this team in a Super Bowl. We've seen it in the AFC Championship game because they made adjustments, especially on the defensive side of the football. Ludini is just, again, it's impressive what he's doing with this football team on the defensive side of the football. And they found ways to make those big stops, found ways to get the football back in the offense's hands. And offense found a way to score points and win games. And you cannot discount that. And I think ultimately, this really does feel like it's on the road, Bengals home field advantage. It really does feel like a game the Los Angeles Rams could and probably should win, all things considered right now. But I think this is a Cincinnati Bengals team. Let's not discount who this team's quarterback is. The guy with the it factor, Joe Burrow. And when you're a quarterback at the caliber of Joe Burrow, an MVP candidate year in and year out like Joe Burrow, a guy that possesses all the leadership skills in the world. He's the type of guy that says, hey, we're not going to go 0-3. We can't go 0-3. When the back of the Bengals is up against the wall, we have seen it time in and time again. The Bengals, led by their captain and their leader in Joe Burrow, have come through and found ways to win football games. And I feel like that is what we're going to see again this week. I think we do finally see, again, Jamar Chase is just caged up right now. We're going to see this guy finally get going. I want to see Jamar Chase. I was looking for, I don't know, maybe teams aren't allowing it. Something, again, the Rams have done really well this season is get those shallow crossing routes, mid to shallow crossing routes going for the receivers. I want to see, that or some slants for Jamar Chase. Try to get that inside leverage. I mean, this is a guy, again, with the speed and athleticism he has. It's kind of surprising we don't see the Bengals more often because we've seen what he can do. Just give him a little bit of open space. Kind of reminds me of what the Giants used to do with OBJ when it was him and Eli Manning. Give that guy a little open space and he could, take that 8-yard reception to the house. We'll see if the Bengals draw something like that up. Nonetheless, I think we get Jamar going. I think T. Higgins has been playing solid. I think Joe Mixon's looked best he has in a few years, I think, so far these first couple games. Bengals find a way to win this football game. I'm going to say it's a high-scoring one, 30-27. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.